Welcome to Midnight Menu Plus One. I'm Ray Canada.
And I'm Margot Moss. Midnight Menu Plus One is a food lifestyle show on the podcast network. It's neworleans.com. Tonight we're at the NOLA Brewing Tap Room in the Irish Channel.
The tap room is NOLA Brewing's on-site watering hole. They serve NOLA's regular lineup of craft beer as well as 8 specialty brews you can't get anywhere else.
And the tap room is open 7 days a week, weekdays from 2 to 11 p.m. and weekends from 11 in the morning till 11:30 p.m.
So glad you could join us, friends. Each week on Midnight Menu Plus One, Margot and I invite a member of New Orleans' restaurant and food community to have a beer with us, and we invite them to bring along their own guest, a plus one. We never know who their plus one's going to be. Sometimes it's a friend, it can be a neighbor, a family member, fellow restaurant colleague, just about anybody.
Our special guest on Midnight Menu Plus One tonight is Nick Bazan, co-owner and manager of Little Gem Saloon.
I cannot wait to get to talk to him. Fascinating person, but we're really looking forward to that. But before we do, I want to catch up on this week's culinary adventures. Margaret, you have anything that you ate that's worth reporting?
Well, I don't have anything to talk about that I ate, but I do have to say something I read, and I'm very excited. I've never been a restaurant hoarder, been to a place that I didn't want people to go to.
Right.
Except once in my life.
Where?
The Crab Trap.
The Crab Trap. Is that the place out in Destin?
No, it's...
There's a place called that in Destin,
no,
I think.
it's about 15, 20 minutes from here.
Okay.
And they have this thing called BBQ Crabs.
Wow.
That is the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. And
Wow.
they closed, okay? And I was devastated.
This week it closed?
No, a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
And but I just read that he's reopening.
Closer.
Louis, they're reopening in the same place.
Oh, in the same place.
But they're
All right.
reopening.
All right.
And it is
Same people?
the most incredible thing. Yes.
What'd they do to the building in the meantime?
It was just like a shack in the middle on the lake, middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere. So it just stayed a
It was
shack.
in the downstairs of another restaurant or whatever, but it's amazing. So I'll
barbecue
have to
crab,
report-
is it like barbecue shrimp? Is that kind of barbecue? It's not
like
barbecue
that.
like most people think of, like Texas barbecue, like
Correct.
like brisket. No, it's the New Orleans use of the word barbecue.
It's a version of. It's like barbecue shrimp, and
Right.
it comes in the shell. And
sounds great.
The sauce is unbelievable.
Why has nobody else ever tried to imitate
Nobody
that?
can. I'm sure people have. I've seen a lot of well-known chefs eating there, but I don't think anybody can do it like Louis the Lips.
Wow, Louis the Lips. That's great. Oh, wow. Well,
Where have you eaten this week?
I've eaten a bunch of things this week, but I'll tell you, today I walked about 14 miles in the hot sun in 96 degrees in my long pants, and I'm dehydrated, and I can't remember anything I ate. All I remember is drinking lots and lots of water and staggering around today. So, but you know what? I really don't want to talk about any more of mine this week because I'm dying to get to hear from our guest. Obviously, he's going to have a lot to talk about. Really excited to have with us Nick Bazan of Little Gem Saloon, most recently. Welcome.
you.
Thank you.
So
Thanks
glad you're here.
much. Yeah, thank you for inviting me over, Margot. I was just telling my special mystery guest about how I met you over at that wonderful Italian barrel restaurant.
Yes.
It seems that this city is so full of restaurants, and all we do is talk about restaurants and where we're going to eat next while we're eating at the restaurant that we're eating at.
Italian Barrel you guys met at?
Yeah.
Oh, in Esplanade in Decatur. Love that place.
Wonderful place.
Great place.
Oh, yes. It's a great
Super
story.
authentic, too. Yeah, she went to
the
Italy and all
chef,
that. Yeah.
she goes to it. Well, she imports the pastas from Italy.
Huh.
And all the pastas are made in Italy with ambient yeast and the ambient eggs and water. And then she makes the sauces there. What a great concept.
Wait, she uses Italian water, too?
Well, the pastas are made in Italy from the Italian water.
Okay.
Right,
I think she meant she imported the water she boils it into. I was
no,
like, wow,
no,
that's extreme.
That would be. She could, but no.
That would be intense.
She uses New Orleans tap water, which is what I drink.
Which basically ruins
gives
it.
Exactly.
I was going to say gives it that little extra joie de vivre that everything needs here.
No, New Orleans water, I think, is one of the best tasting waters in the country. I think it was voted that a few years ago. I don't know if you all heard. we do have
It
one of the
does
best
taste
tasting
good.
water.
Well, it's got to be good for cooking because the cooking's so good here, right? It's got to at least be good for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and the cooking like boils out all the stuff that's in the 300-year-old pipes, right?
I've been drinking since I came to New Orleans in 1981 with only tap water, and I'm still here. So hey,
All right.
that's what 35
Really?
years
You've
now.
always
Well, every now and then when somebody buys me a bottle of Evian, I'll drink it, but otherwise tap water for me.
all right.
Definitely.
You're a real supporter.
And
that's
no
what-
brain amoebas or anything.
Well, no brain amoebas. No, that's what I'm drinking now.
That's
So-
right. Your dad's like a brain doctor, right?
That's
so,
right. My father's a
Yeah.
a neuroscientist.
So he
That's
would know
right.
if you had brain
He
amoebas.
would
He'd know the signs.
That's right. When you say brain amoeba, I thought my father would know that. And my father's a neuroscientist with my mother. I said, but they're both scientists at LSU.
Really? No
They're
kidding.
both researchers. Have been doing research for 49 years. Married for 50 years in September next month.
Beautiful.
So, I mean, they're an inspiration to me in so many ways. Married, worked together for 49 years, 5 kids, still doing it, still joking around, still work together. And, that generation, the greatest, the baby boomers, basically. He's 74, my mom's 74. That is a great generation. They just do not give up.
Wow.
And
I want to hear a little bit more about your family and where you come from. But first, I'd like you to tell our listeners a little bit about your latest endeavor at Little Gem Saloon. And
Sure.
tell us about what goes on there and
I'd
some.
love to. Well, the Little Gem Saloon is such a special place. Why? Because of the history. This place is where jazz was born. Literally, jazz was created right there in that building, in that block.
That 400 block of Rampart is like, if New Orleans is the epicenter of the creation of jazz, the 400 block of Rampart claims to be the epicenter of the city's creation. It started right there and spread to the rest of the city.
It
didn't
really did,
Yeah.
and we could say that with all confidence, and because of Buddy Bolden, Jelly Roll Morton, Kid Ory, and of course Louis Armstrong. They were
Wow.
there. They were there playing music before it was considered jazz. It was called ragtime.
Yeah.
So this is where the term jazz came from. It also came from New Orleans.
Right.
It came from that era and that area. We're talking in 1903 to
Wow.
1915 is where this music, jazz as we know it now, was created in that block.
So what was it called then, that building?
That building was called the Little Gem Saloon.
was, okay,
It
it always
was.
was,
So
okay.
we brought the name back.
Okay.
And we want to maintain the history by playing jazz every day. So that's definitely what we have there. We have great music every day, no matter what. And
Yeah.
it's mostly jazz.
Yeah, now, I mean, Kermit Ruffins, people think of him as sort of like the modern Louis Armstrong. He's in that same sort of tradition, and he plays every week, doesn't he? He's like 7
Every
o'clock
Saturday
every
night.
Saturday, right?
Every
That's his new-
Saturday night.
It's kind of like his new staple there. That's an anchor for him.
He does 2 shows, one at 7, one at 9 o'clock every Saturday. And we also have other great artists every night of the week. Kid Jordan plays there quite a bit. His son also plays quite a bit. And Nio Jones plays every Friday. Well, we have so many great artists that play every day, no matter what, because we want to maintain the music alive in that block. And there's 3 buildings next to us that are just as important, and they're going to come back. We have the Eagle Saloon in the corner,
Yeah.
where Buddy Bolden played his first orchestra of jazz. That building is on the corner of Perdido and Rampart. We have the Iroquois Theater, where Louis Armstrong performed as a young man and won a huge award. You've probably seen the pictures of Louis Armstrong in whiteface.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's
Yes.
a very famous picture. That was inside of Iroquois Theater right there. And then the
Wow.
building next to us is a Kornofsky store. That's where Louis Armstrong worked as a young man when he
Wow.
was about 7 years old.
Wow.
Because this was the back of town. This area back in the early 1900s was a very poor, shabby, African American and also Jewish neighborhood.
Right.
Back then, the Jewish families were mixing in with the black families of that era, and they were living next to each other, and they were basically merchants
Right.
to each other. So the Kornofskys that are still in New Orleans, now the Kornofskys have changed their name to the Carnos.
Okay.
It's a very famous family in the French Quarter. They own a bunch of properties. They own restaurants. They actually opened up this place called the Cornet on Bourbon Street recently. That's their
I
that's their
haven't heard of
building.
it.
And so they brought Louis Armstrong in as a young man, gave him a job, and also gave him money to buy his first cornet. Right there.
That's why he wore a Jewish star, right?
Oh,
Because that family-
yeah, that's
Because
right.
of the Kornowskis.
Wow.
So that's
Honor
the
their
building
family.
next to us. So those buildings are protected, and they're definitely preserved. And they're going to come back one day as a saloon, a theater, and maybe a store.
Man, it sounds like a vision for your family. You guys
Oh.
got to spread the empire. So what's going on there right now? They're pretty much vacant, aren't
They're
they?
vacant, but
Yeah.
they're definitely being remodeled because something's happening.
Well, you got the streetcar line coming in on Rampart, right?
That's right.
And that when that gets done, I don't know when they're going to get that done.
That's
When that
already
gets
done past there.
Is
Not
it?
right?
on
On-
Rampart,
oh, I'm-
on Loyola, it
Loyola,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, no, on Rampart though they're putting it in right now, and then also you have all those new theaters opening up right there, and so it's got to be the Sanger's got to be bringing a lot more business there, and I just saw just today. What was the one that
There's
just
all
opened
the
today?
people living downtown too.
Yeah, and also the quarter's full, so it's got to spread, and Tremay's got such a buzz to it since the show.
Well,
and
Nick-
so you're right there in the center of it. That's got to be the next place to really explode, don't you think?
There's so much growth there. I mean, the Paramount building just went up behind us. The Paramount building is about 2 blocks away. It's in the South Market District next to Rouse's. That's all downtown living. There's so many more shops, so many more condominiums. There's a hotel behind us going up next month. There's also a lot more shopping now,
Yeah.
besides the Rouse's. We have a CVS that went up about 2 weeks ago. We have a great bakery now by John Bess,
Oh, nice.
Willie Jeans.
So are you finding more locals
So many more locals have moved downtown
and patronizing?
and patronizing us. This is happening all over the country. They're moving back downtown, away from
Yeah.
the suburbs. They have the empty nest.
and walkable.
people that
Everything's
are-
in walking distance.
Preach it.
They are over 50 years old. They're moving back downtown. It's like, you
Yeah.
know, why drive out to the suburbs again when I could just stay downtown, walk around?
Amen. So
Yeah,
much
that's
better.
right.
They're
And-
realizing
It is.
they're realizing the suburban dream
And-
is not what it's cracked up to be.
Nick,
Definitely.
don't you're a little different too. Don't y'all serve food and have like it's kind of dining and a music experience?
Of course. No, yes. We're definitely a restaurant first, Margot.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, you're a restaurant with music. You're not a music
That's
place
right.
with food, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so our identity is both, and that's why we do have a great kind of niche of a business. So we have a wonderful kitchen with a staff of about 7 people, and we're doing Southern soul food, and which is all from scratch, all natural, like it should be. I mean, I stand behind our food. And so it's a great place for people of all ages to come in, sit down, have dinner, and watch a show in a clean, comfortable environment. And that's really what I like about it, because I've been all over the city to see all sort of music shows, and to get both, to get a great, comfortable dinner with great service, a wonderful wine list and cocktail menu while you're watching a show. That's not really being done too much in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Wow. Well, that might be a good segue for your +1 because I saw he's wearing a chef jacket. I don't know who he
That's
is, but I'm
right.
assuming he's a chef.
Oh, I'd love to
unless
bring
he
him
just
over.
unless he just likes to dress like that.
Well, while our producer's getting him, let me ask you, what were you doing before? I mean, I remember, but why don't you talk a little bit about what businesses you were involved in before Little
Definitely.
Gem?
Well, I mean, I opened up Rio Mar in 2000 in the warehouse district, and that brought in more of a global cuisine downtown like
Right.
never before.
Yes.
We've always had French Creole in New Orleans, which is great, but we brought in the Latin influence.
Right. Chef
Of
was
not-
Panamanian, wasn't he? Yeah.
Exactly. Panamanian
Yeah.
descent, born and raised in New Orleans.
Right.
So, but we brought over the Latin cuisine to New Orleans like never before. Not Spanish, Latin, Pan-Latin,
Right.
right? Yes.
Yeah.
Central American mostly, Northern Caribbean, a lot of ceviche.
Now, is that your background, by the way? We can hear a little bit of an accent.
That's
is that
right.
where you're from originally?
I'm from Argentina.
That's what we thought. Okay.
That's where I grew up.
Yeah.
But the Latin influence really came from Central America,
Yeah.
which is the Northern Caribbean. As you may know, New Orleans has so many influences from that area with our rums and our cuisine. You know, it all started back in the day from Haiti when they were coming in through the slave trade. and they brought in voodoo, and they brought in so many spices, and the peso bitters. So the Northern Caribbean influence in New Orleans is, I think, overseen quite a bit, or it was back then. In 2000, when we opened Rio Mar, nobody knew what ceviche was, nobody knew what a caipirinha was, or cachaça, or even pisco. Now, it's everywhere. It is not because of us. It's really because I think we become a little more worldly in the city of New Orleans for so many reasons. I could maybe say Katrina
And we're
brought
going
over
back
the
to
influences.
history too, though. I mean, I think people are. We have always had those influences, like you said, but it just hasn't been highlighted maybe in the recent. So when y'all came along, it helped put it back in the forefront of people's
Certainly, I think
minds to
people were
appreciate
ready.
all our culture here and
Definitely, Mark.
the
I think
influences.
people were ready to explore other cuisines other than the Tran de Meunier, you know, and it gets it doesn't get repetitive, but it's just, come on, let's explore something else. And I really think also the Food Network had a lot to do with it. The Food Network brought in so much more awareness about world cuisine like never before. And now people they don't just watch that, they read about it. So we're becoming more educated on cuisine all over the country, really. I grew up in Argentina, like you asked, yes. And back then we take food seriously, and we actually cook together as a family. That's being done now more than ever before in this country. I think because of not just the Food Network, all the great magazine publications, and also online cooking that you can do so much of.
Huh. Now, speaking of cuisine, why don't you introduce your plus one? Tell us
I would love
who he
to.
is and why you selected him.
Right. Well, I brought over
All the people in the whole world.
Yes,
This is the guy
I
you
brought
chose,
over,
the one guy you chose
of course,
to be with you.
Michael Shelton here, who's one of the best chefs that I've met ever. I'm not just saying that because he cooks for me at Little Gem Saloon. He really is an amazing young man. And when I met him and we first talked, I was so impressed with him in so many levels that I had to bring him. Anyway.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael, for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, when was the first time y'all met?
We met. I applied for the sous chef job at Little Gem, and on my first day there, I realized I hadn't met him yet. And I realized this guy's cutting my paycheck, and we should have a conversation. And we sat and talked for almost an hour. And I kind of gave him my philosophy on what I do. It's not just, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I cook for art's sake." I don't. I have a family to take care of. It's craft, which is art for sale, and it's a business. And a lot of my philosophy is based on making money for the people who are cutting the check. I tell all the cooks just yesterday, you don't work for me, you work with me. I don't cut your check. And so that's my respect for the people who own the business. And that guides what I do, very much so.
And who influenced you in your philosophy in your life? Where did that come from? I've
been really blessed to have some very good chefs. My first set of chefs were Joshua Wilkinson and John Montelepre at Two John Steakhouse in Shreveport, Louisiana. They brought me up right. They showed me the proper way to do things. They showed me that you don't have to be adversarial with the people you work with. When I see them and their families and John's father, Big John, who owns the restaurant, I hug them. It's more than I on birthdays I still call this 3-4 years later. So it's seeing a family business, what it means to people, and having people do me a good turn. And so just reflexively, and this is how I was raised, if someone does you a good turn, it's your duty to return that. And so that's my basic
So
philosophy.
did you grow up there in Shreveport, or are you
No,
from, where are you from?
I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania originally.
All right.
My father was in the Air Force. I've lived all over the country. I went to high school in Biloxi. I went to college at Jackson State University in Jackson. And then I transferred a job from Jackson to Monroe to Shreveport. And then I was in Shreveport. I was running a kitchen in a restaurant called the Bella Fresca Bistro. If you're ever in Shreveport, Bella Fresca is one of the two best restaurants you can go to up there. I had an opportunity my first year at Two Johns to come down and stage at Commander's Palace. I just wanted to see if I could do it. I wanted to see if I could handle it. And I did. I did well. They actually offered me a job. I wasn't able to take it right then. I was still, committed to Shreveport. But a friend of mine called me, so they had a job opening down here, and I went for it. I figured if I can make it in New Orleans, it's one of the top 4 or 5 food cities in America. There's so much you can learn, which is really, because you can't know it all, but you can learn forever. So as long as you keep that in your mind that every day you're going to learn something new, I decided this was the place to be, and it's worked out for me.
So what was that job, the Little Gem Saloon, then? That was your first job in New Orleans?
No, my first job at in New Orleans was at Mondo in Lakeview.
Huh.
And I did horrible. I don't mind telling you.
Mondo's
What do you
the
mean?
Susan Spicer
Yes,
restaurant.
it was. It just, sometimes you have to learn. And sometimes it takes a kick in the behind to learn. I went from there, and I was working at Pizza Dominica for John Besh. I was the head of production there.
Wait, but you skipped over what you did bad at Mondo. What happened? Did you kill somebody? What happened?
No, nothing like that.
Food poisoning?
Oh, no, nothing like that. What you learn?
Knife fight in the kitchen? What happened?
Oh, no one ever wants to fight me. I'm bigger than they are. But what you end up learning is every environment's not for you, and you're not for every environment, which is really the reason behind the stage. It's so that you get to see, and then they get to see, and I learned a lot. I learned technique, and I learned Ms. Spicer is a taskmaster. And I mean that with all due respect. I mean, just the manner in which, just to cut fish, setting up your station properly, making sure you have your right tools, it's on ice, things like that. I take them with me, and I bother people about it now. So it was definitely a learning experience, and I would say I was not ready for New Orleans at that point. But I got ready because, there's no option. I have children. And so my next job at Pizza Dominica went much easier because of that. Because, I could sit around, I could blame them. I could say, oh, they did this, they did that. Or, and this is the better learning tool, what could I have done different? What could I have done better? And so regardless of, even if it wasn't my fault, I'm going to make it my fault. And in that, you learn from your mistakes. And then you improve, and that's what you have to do in this business. You have to improve.
I want to work for you, with you.
Yeah, with.
I mean, you are inspiring.
That's why I
we're
brought
so
him here.
lucky to have
He's
you
he's an
in the
inspiring,
city.
bright young man. And when I first talked to him, I was like, I could see this man going far in this city of New Orleans. And so he's a chef now, and I'm so lucky to have him. We all are. We're very inspired by him every day, the front of the house, the back of the house. Yes, and he cooks damn well too.
Yep, and and that good relationship with the front and the back of the house is necessary. You read a couple of books, and there's always some chef who hates everybody who ever waited tables. I used to wait tables, so I'm aware of what it is. Also, I already think I cook well. I think everything I cook tastes good. It's not always the case, and you can't. My chef's ego says it's good. But I have to be able to talk to them. They have to be able to tell me, hey, this guy says it's too spicy. This guy says it needs more salt. This guy says it needs more sugar. I have to be able to get that information and process it and be humble enough to know that I absolutely have to have that because they're paying for it. And they're like me. I work 5-6 days a week. I have bills. And this might be the one time this month this group of people got to come out, have a good stress-free time. I want them to have a good time because, I know what that is. Because there's been a couple of months I haven't gone out at all. I've been at work. But, I'm an adult, and that's what you have to do. And so, I try to keep that with me. I want to have a good working relationship with both the front and the back of the house. If you have a good working relationship all through front and back, it translates to the customers. We had a really good night last Saturday night. Kermit Ruffin plays at our restaurant on Saturday nights. And I had never really seen the floor. I stepped out. We had all our tickets done. I couldn't even walk through. But everybody was having such a good time. If they were jumping in it, it lets you know what kind of food they want and need for this environment. Because, I can do anything, but everything is not for everybody. So you have to be key to that room. And that was a beautiful experience to sit there and see, okay, I get it. This is what I need to do. This is who I'm catering to. People just having a good time. And, it's...
Fuel the dancing and the revelry and
just
good
to
food.
relax. And you think about it. We're coming up on the 10th anniversary of Katrina.
Yeah.
What better time than now for people to reflect and have a relaxing time? Be able to chill out. Because even in northern Louisiana at that time, it was chaotic because you had people's families being displaced. The weather kicked back. And then I went to high school in Biloxi. My 14 to 18-year-old life is gone.
Yeah.
I can't ever go show my kids where me and my friends used to play football at. I can never really go show them my life at that time. It's sobering. It's very sobering. And, you have to respect it. A lot of people look at it as a when you're not from the area, they look at Katrina as like a TV movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, oh, yeah, okay, now it's okay. No. When you talk to people from New Orleans, talk to anybody from New Orleans for 15 minutes, eventually they will say, well, before the storm. It'll comes up. It's a scar. It's an emotional scar from here through Biloxi and in Alabama. The people on the coast, it's a scar. And so if one night you can come down, have a drink, have a good meal, listen to some good music, just have a legitimately good time, I did my job.
Excellent.
Huh. Now, I wonder if people order different things when you have different musical settings. Have you noticed that? Like, are there different sort of dishes or different styles of food that get consumed when Kermit's playing, as opposed to other kind of styles of music that you have?
Definitely.
Like, what's an example of that?
We had we for Jazz Fest, of course, the city comes alive, and we do a lot more rock and roll show. We had my friend John Thomas Griffith from Kaiba perform one night. And so that's a younger crowd, a little rowdier. They're going to get more appetizers. They're going to have more small bites and a lot more beer. Kermit Ruffins will definitely bring in, I think, a lot more tourists as well.
Right.
The tourists want to have our
signature New Orleans dishes.
Gumbo, the crawfish etouffee.
Right.
They're going for things that they don't get back home.
Right.
Friday nights, Nia Jones. She brings the locals.
Right.
Locals want to get the specials. They're definitely going for something a little bit more adventurous, not as touristy or maybe not as cut and dry Creole. Because what we're doing there is not just Southern Soul. We're also throwing in New Orleans standards as well. But Michael now is changing the menu slowly to what he feels, like he just said, that people want. Because he's right about the space. You want to make sure the space and the people dictate your menu.
Right. Well, I mean, to me, it's like you guys are in this historic space, and you want to highlight that, and you want to make that important to the way people get to know you, but also you don't want to become a food museum or a music museum either.
No.
And so you want it to be evolving, right? And so you got to. So I guess the trick is holding on to. I mean, this is what commanders and people like that have to deal with all the time too. I guess anyone has a tradition to their institution.
Right.
You want to be able to figure out what's essentially you hold on to and what needs to evolve to keep it interesting. And that's got to be. But that's got to be fun for somebody as an outsider that's moved here recently, and as somebody who's younger to be able to do a lot of that stuff. It's got to be really challenging, and exciting for you, right?
It's really. If you read Marco Pierre White's book. He goes into he stops the book almost completely. There's a subsection on Nouvelle Cuisine. And essentially what you're doing is you're taking these old standards. No one invents a dish. There's nothing new under the sun, not one thing. But what you do is you take something older, something familiar, something grandma made, something auntie made, something, that people know. And what you do is you're refining. You're not really changing. It's the same basic flavors. You're just refining it and making it something that's contemporary, something that's in keeping with the times, with the way people want to eat. People do want to at least pretend like they're eating healthier. They really do, And so, and then, I'm a father, so I'm an expert in tricking people into eating things that are healthy for them. And so when you take it from that standpoint, and when I, sat down with Nick and his sister Maria, and then we started discussing what the identity of the restaurant is, I started reading. And you learn that the Acadians come from Canada. They were expelled by the British. You learn that New Orleans is very, very, as quiet as it's kept, very influenced by the Spaniards, very much so. You learn that gumbo is an African word. There's no pork in it. They actually use dried fish to make their stock. You learn that, like you was talking about the Northern Caribbean, how close it is. Etouffee and jambalaya are Spanish dishes. This is Spanish standards. These are things you find every day. So
jambalaya is basically paella or whatever. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So once you get that in mind, you realize what you're dealing with. You are literally dealing with the entire history of immigrants to the Western world over the last 500 years. It's exactly that serious. It's exactly that serious. It might sound limiting, but it opened my eyes. I'm like, okay, I know I can go here. I can go there. I can go here. I can go there. But what I also know is I could come in tomorrow, change every dish on the menu, and it can be, the whole menu can be just, hello, this is Chef Michael Shelton's ego on a plate. Or I could be like, the place was open before I got there. It's going to be open after if I'm never there. So why not keep the standards, make some changes here and there, keep business in mind, and then on the specials, look to the Caribbean for fish dishes because they are bright and snappy, quick. Let's look to how are they making gumbo in Africa? And they use all kinds of seafood in there. I live in New Orleans. There's all kinds of seafood here. This is exactly the right place for it. Let's look at the real difference between Creole and Cajun because it's not the same thing. And when you start to get into that, it's a respect. So, as I go on, that guides me. That guides me every day. Just respect who I cook for, who I work for, and the people I work with because I want them to be proud. You should be able to come to work every day and be, I didn't want to get up today, but you know what? I did a good job. I'm proud. And that's really what it comes down to.
All right. Well, Margot, I think we need to stop for just a moment and thank our sponsors of tonight's show. Thank you tonight to the NOLA Brewing Tap Room, the watering hole of NOLA Brewing Company on Chapatoula Street in the Irish Channel, where you can get all of NOLA Brewing's beers plus another 8 specialty beers you can't get anywhere else.
And let me tell you about our sponsors, Petite Pet Care. While you're at work or on vacation or out whooping it up at Little Gem Saloon, you don't have to board your pet. He can stay in the comfort of his own home. For loving care when you're not there, Petite Pet Care. Find them at petitepetcare.com.
All right, maybe we can get back to Nick for just a moment and ask more about your background. So, were you always in food, or what? Before Rio Mar, what'd you do?
Wow, right. Like I said, I came to New Orleans when I was 11 years old. In Argentina, being such a European culture.
Did you come here because your parents were teaching LSU? Is that why? Okay.
We all moved down here in 1981. So my whole family moved here.
Did you speak any English when you got here?
I knew 2 words, hello and pencil. And now I know a few more, but no, I knew almost no English, and it was scary. We came in the summer, so I was able to learn it in about 6 months. At that age, you're like a sponge. You can learn the language so quickly, and my parents hired a tutor. They put us in front of the television, and they said, you can learn English in 3 months. And we did.
All right.
We went to school. It was great, friendliest city, really. The kids were great at that age, especially. You would think that there'd be some bullying, but not at all. We lived in the West Bank. I learned English. We assimilated very well. And I fell in love with the city on Mardi Gras Day. I'll never forget. It was Mardi Gras Day. I'm on St. Charles Avenue, and there was magic. It was something that I still can't describe. New Orleans is like that. So what do you like New Orleans? There's something about it, something in the air that we love. But it happened Mardi Gras Day on St. Charles. I was around St. Charles and I believe Jackson.
Yeah.
And the whole city just was in sync of this beautiful festivity. It was a wonderful day. Everybody was having a great time. I was like, this place is special. And I haven't left since. And like I was saying, in Argentina, the food is taken very seriously. Being such a European, mostly Spanish, some Italian,
Big Italian,
some German, and some English.
Yeah.
So cooking was a huge part of our culture, and eating around a table is always done down there, no matter what. And here in New Orleans as well, we have a lot of similarities. It's a very European Catholic city, New Orleans is. So when I came here, there were so many similarities. We kept our tradition. We had dinner every night. My mom and dad cooked together. And my mom actually taught me a lot of dishes. I cooked in the kitchen quite a bit. I still do. And my first job in the restaurant business was actually as a dishwasher at a Shoney's in New Orleans East.
Shoney's.
And, there was a rude awakening for me because before that I had plus jobs.
Why? Why were you a dishwasher in New Orleans East at a Shoney's?
Well, I was living in New Orleans East.
How old were you?
And I was about 16.
Okay.
And so I needed to do something as a summer job. And it was down the street. And I was like, you know what? This is probably the thing I can get a job doing that will teach me some things. Before that, I worked for my father, kind of a plus job in the laboratory. This was minimum wage of $3.35 an hour, working 12-hour shifts with no breaks.
Oh, wow.
Which is illegal, by the way, but that happened so long ago. Bruce, you're fine. That was my manager. But that, like I tell people, once you can do something like that, you could almost do anything. I mean, this was really a hard job. I mean, there's
And you
no
made
way.
it all. You didn't quit.
I worked there for almost 2 years. I made it to a line cook, and they loved me because I just kept going, and it gave me a lot of fortitude. I mean, I'm glad I did that. It was definitely hell, but you have to go through that, and you have to start at the bottom in the restaurant business. You do, and the British know that more than anything. They put the managers through the dish pit room when they first start out. You have to understand every aspect of the restaurant, and I think being a dishwasher kind of gave me an identity of what that job means, which is probably the most important job, the lowest paying, and the most important one. But that was my first job in the business, but I've worked all over. I mean, I worked at Mr. B's. I worked at Galatoire's as a waiter. That was an amazing job. So much fun, so much great money. I worked on Bourbon Street. I worked at Houlihan's, at Seaport, at Café Sabisa. Wow. We're Andreas in Metairie. So I got to meet a lot of characters, a lot of great people in the city. And I love the restaurant business in the city. We all help each other out. I'm good friends with everybody. And we have a great community here of restaurants, which we all support. And we all know, we all love. I mean, eating out for me is a hobby. I do it at least twice a week. Actually, today I went to the Court of Two Sisters.
All right.
Can you believe that?
I've been craving that for a while. The buffet,
I don't think
Yeah.
I've been there since I was a kid.
Yeah, that's the
I
thing.
don't-
Me too.
People
I've
act
been
like it's a
there
touristy
25
thing or
years.
something, but I mean, it's a great buffet. It's like $28 for lunch or whatever. Last time
was,
I went,
it was $30 a person.
$30 now. Yeah,
And
but
we
you got
had-
that nice sort of old timey Dixieland band in the back and a beautiful
Exactly.
courtyard on a sunny day
You
like
know,
today. And
Ray, it was awesome. We had a great time, and really, because I wanted a courtyard, even though it's 102 degrees.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Just see me in the shade. I'll be fine. Put the fan behind me. We had a great time. It was worth it.
Oh,
there was
yeah.
nobody there.
You got to go hungry though, because you got to get your
I
money's
didn't go
worth.
that hungry, but it was still worth it. Great service.
Yeah.
And it is a touristy place, but you know what? I support the French Quarter, and
Yeah.
I go there at least twice a month, maybe
Yeah.
more, because I love it. It's my playground. I live uptown, but I mean, it's and I know you live there, right, Margo? You live in the quarters.
I used to for
Right.
10 years, not anymore.
Right, right.
I'm,
So-
I'm in the burbs now.
Yeah.
It's a great neighborhood. It really
Yeah, I
is.
love
the
it.
quarters. I like to call it the quarters too.
Yeah, that's the
The
other thing.
quarters.
People from downtown call it the quarters. Yeah, that's
We
great.
have to,
Yeah,
and
that's great.
we should patronize it more as locals.
Yeah.
Come on, let's take it back.
I live uptown. I walked there today.
What?
I walked to the quarter. Yeah, that's what I got my lunch and I got my coffee and everything today. It was a 12-mile round trip, but I walked to the
What?
quarter.
That's
yeah,
great.
I love it. I do that at least once a week.
Nice.
That's how
Yeah.
Ray lost all the 50 pounds again when he first moved to New Orleans.
Wow. What do you take, St. Charles Avenue? Or
No, I take Magazine Street.
Okay.
I
that's
stay on
nice.
Magazine Street the whole way, the entire length of Magazine Street till it turns to Decatur, and I take the whole length of Decatur. I stop at On V at the very, very end, right at Esplanade.
Nice.
This is like that's my best way to spend a day off. I love nothing
Oh,
better.
there you go. That's
Yeah,
wonderful. Good to hear.
I do
Yeah.
staycations that way too. I'll bring a
Right.
book. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, but it's not about me. But anyway, so
So-
I think it's time for off the menu question, isn't it?
Okay. Well, off the menu is the part of the show where we ask y'all a question that you would never have heard in your interview.
Okay.
I mean, maybe my question this evening is if you were interviewing for a job from an 8-year-old, because that's where my question comes from.
Who's it for?
Nick.
Okay.
My question for you is if you were eating this, let me phrase it right because Julian asked me this question.
Julian's your son.
If you were eating pork and you found, what would you rather? If you were eating pork and you found out it was hamster meat, or if you were eating gumbo and you found out it was beetles? What would you rather have as a food experience?
That's bizarre.
I know, I'm sorry. He's 8 and he loves what would you rather.
Personally, I would rather find that it was hamster meat.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I
Than
know why. I know
beetles?
why he's going to say this.
Well, I
I
mean-
can predict
Wait,
it.
wait.
Because they eat guinea pigs not too far from
In
Argentina.
Peru.
Yeah, right.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go to Peru one day and try guinea pigs. And
It's
I've
supposed to be
tried-
great.
I tried bugs at the insectarium.
At the
I've tried
gross.
them many times, and they're not bad at all. They're actually delicious to me. But I eat anything. But I would try that, and I would not mind it because I like to
Okay.
eat weird things.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
they're probably delicious. They're just cute and fatty.
Right. All right, Chef. All right, so the meteor's going to hit the planet, and you got one meal, you got one restaurant, one bar, one band here before you die in New Orleans. What has got to be? I once tried to make my top 100 restaurants in New Orleans. It took me 8 hours, and I couldn't get it down to under 108. So this is a hard question.
Okay.
Listeners that don't understand New Orleans will not appreciate how difficult this is to pick just one. But you got to pick just one place.
If I had one place.
One place in New Orleans to eat.
You know what? Silly as it sounds, if I had to go to a real restaurant, I would go to Commander's Palace.
There you go.
Because I enjoy the whole thing, the whole service. The whole thing is amazing to me. And then as a chef, the stuff they have in their kitchen, the ingredients they have, is probably the best in Louisiana, just about.
Wow.
If not there, it's August. If I had to, but now other than that, there's the Olympia Food Mart. It's at the corner down from the street where I live. I live in Mid-City.
Yeah.
It is not ever going to win any awards. It is not going to win a Michelin star. But if I have to just go get something to eat and I'm sitting at home, I go down there, I get a shrimp po' boy and or the yakami. I mean and or, because sometimes I just want them both. But I think it's like what you said. The best thing about New Orleans is it's like within 10 minutes of your house, there's at least 10 different great places to eat that have nothing to do with tourists.
Yeah.
And I just like going there. You know, the guy knows my daughter. He always asks, how she's doing. The family who owns it, they're there every day, with their children, if they're not at school. I love it. Now, but Commander's is just for me, when I think of classic New Orleans service, classic New Orleans, just New Orleans as a restaurant, just a New Orleans restaurant. That's the one I think of.
Neat.
That's the one I think of.
All right, one bar, one band.
One bar. For a bar, one bar. I'm going to Miss Mays on Magazine.
There we go. Oh, right near me. Good.
Because with Miss Mays,
because then you're going to run into Peyton there, and you run into
And it's for most of the last year, I worked at 3 restaurants on Magazine. I worked at Pizza Dominica, Apolline, and La Petite Grocery right before I started working here.
Okay.
And it's right in between.
Yep.
And being a cook, you are not what you would call rich at all. So you must be frugal with your spending decisions. And that's where I would go now. Thankfully, I started cooking in New Orleans after I was 30. Had I been here before, then I would have needed a bionic liver. But that's where I would go. And one band, my favorite from when I was a kid, there was a rap group named Camp Low. I had never seen, I have all their albums. I've been following them since 97, since I was 16. My friend Natalie, who's from here, we went for her birthday last year, I believe it was. We went to see them at Tipitina's.
Nice.
Or no, Howling Wolf. We went to see them. And I got to see my favorite group in New Orleans, my first 2 months here. They took me to this cool, out-the-way place. I still have no idea where it's at that had these really good tapas. If I could just see my favorite group in New Orleans. They're from Brooklyn. They're from the Bronx. In New Orleans. And, and I'm down here. I'm living my dream. I see my favorite band. It got no better. Got no better.
Right near Rio Mar. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep. Rio Mar is right near Howling Wolf.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, great. Those are good answers. Give some good ideas for some listeners, too. Because, the Meteor doesn't have to hit to go.
No, it does not.
You can go do this every day. Mm-hmm. Every day in this town.
Well, I want to know a little bit more about, I know y'all's free time is limited in the field you're in. Mm-hmm. But when you do have free time, Michael, I'd like to know what do you enjoy doing, and who do you spend your free time with?
My children.
Okay.
My youngest daughter, I probably do not necessarily raise my daughters. They are more like my friends whom I enable. I'm probably really hard on my sons, very, very easy on my daughters. So I like to hang out with them. Now, since I've moved here, what I like to do is there's a coffee shop up the street from my house, Sacred Grounds.
Oh, yeah.
Near the cemeteries
on
Canal. I love going there. They have, you would think that organic muffins would not be good, but you would be wrong. They are excellent. I like to go to Central City Comics. Love that. I've been collecting comics since I was 7, so that's like 20-something years.
And that's fun to do with your kids, too.
Yeah. And what it is they think that I'm cooler than what I really am. Because the truth is, I've had pretty much the same set of interests as I was 13. And I'm 36 now, so it's I'm just extending it to them. Last year, right before I moved here, actually, like 2 weeks before I moved to New Orleans, we went to WrestleMania. So I had to leave work, drive to New Orleans, to WrestleMania, and get them back. I also like to walk around the city. I'm from Philadelphia. My grandmother, we used to walk everywhere. And, this is when she was in her 80s. And I was 12, and she would wear me out. I was just like, goodness gracious, woman. But now, it's fun to do. When I first moved here, I just walked around the quarters. I came down, I took the streetcar down Canal, and just kind of walked around and saw what was there. And that's one of the, I think that is the unknown true greatness of New Orleans.
Yes.
Is that New Orleans wants New Orleans to be New Orleans. And they are not necessarily in any kind of rush to be something else, which is beautiful. And it reminds me of Philly, because Philly loves Philly. We take care of Philly. You don't need anything else. You need, your neighborhood in Philadelphia. And so that's very familiar to me. And so just walking around, and then,
Yeah, you can't be in New Orleans when you're in a car. You're driving around in a pod looking at New Orleans through a
Yeah, it's
window.
not
You
the
got to
same
be out
thing.
on the street walking
It's
around
not
in
the
it.
same thing.
I got rid of my car years ago for that
yeah,
reason.
I mean, you learn something.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful thing. And, when my kids were here for Christmas, they live in Mississippi. We took a walk. We would take a walk. And you can point something out. And then when I was working at Applebee's, the one of the editors from the Times-Picayune was like, oh yeah, who was the gentleman who shot Kennedy?
Oh, Lee Harvey Oswald lives a couple blocks from Abilene. Don't get me started.
Yeah, this is a couple blocks. So we're a bunch of adults, so we're all over the fence. Like, look, that was over there. It was over there.
4900 block of magazine.
Yeah, and it's just cool. It's a better than interesting city. And then in high school, perhaps allegedly, me and some friends may or may not have snuck here a couple of times without our parents knowing. Allegedly, because my parents, are very, very tech savvy. But this is late 90s. This is 96, 97. You just learn something. You see something. New Orleans is New Orleans, and you must appreciate it for that.
Yeah.
It's for whatever anyone wants to say is wrong or whatever anyone wants to say is bad. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah. All right. We're almost out of time. I just want to hear a little bit about what you do in your free time,
Wow,
because I want
okay.
to just one thing that
Well-
people would not know about you.
Margot, I mean, I do have kids just like Michael. So I've got 3 kids. They're my life. I've got a 13-year-old boy, De La Salle, 8th grade. That's where I went to high school. Great football player. Had a great game this weekend. So he's my war right now. Then I have a 7-year-old boy, Esteban, and Estella, who's 5. They're amazing. They're also a huge part of my life. Besides that, I am a triathlete. I do triathlons. So I've done 7 half Ironmans. I train 2 to 4 hours a day. So I do a lot of training when I can, and the business is hard.
You have a gym like in the Little Gem Saloon?
Ray, I mean, I sneak them in. I go in the morning. Like this morning, I did a spinning class for an hour. I lift weights after work. I go to the gym. I run between shifts.
Nice.
Actually, I run downtown. I run from the restaurant. I run down to Bacchanal and back. I've been taking that Crescent Park's amazing.
Yeah.
You got to sneak the workouts in when you can.
Yeah.
I do yoga. I just did an hour and a half yoga. So I do what I can when you can to take care of my body, because that's how I get high. I get high with my body, and that's my passion right now. Besides my children, is working out.
All
All
right.
right. Wonderful.
And eating all over the city.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You work out enough, that's
So I could eat.
Yeah,
That's why I do.
I found it when I got rid of my car. I found as long as I walk to wherever I'm going to eat, I can eat whatever I want.
Oh, man, so many good meals.
Will y'all tell our listeners about the hours of Little Gem
Sure,
Saloon?
I'd love
and,
to. Yes, we're open. We're open actually 6 days a week. We're open Tuesday through Sunday, close on Mondays. So we'll do dinner Tuesday through Saturday, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. on the weeknights, 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday nights. And we're doing Sunday brunch, great brunch from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and lunch Tuesday through Friday.
Okay.
We're basically closed on Mondays.
All right.
All
And
right.
do y'all have a website?
We
Is
do.
there-
It's littlegemsaloon.com.
Yes.
Great.
Facebook, I'm sure, and Twitter and all that kind of
whole
stuff.
thing,
Yeah,
the
right,
whole
right.
All the music schedule's there. We have a great music lineup every day of the week.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And they're all free shows except for the Common Ruffin show and Nia Jones. Everything else is free.
Right.
Free show.
Excellent.
Our special guest tonight at Midnight Menu Plus One was Nick Bazan of Little Gem Saloon, and his plus one was Chef Michael Shelton. So thankful for you guys to come. I know both of you have a busy schedule, and we really appreciate it. You can find out more about Little Gem Saloon on our website. It's neworleans.com.
And thanks to Petite Pet Care and the NOLA Brewing Tap Room for the awesome beer this evening.
All right, the NOLA Brewing Tap Room, have I mentioned, is open 7 days a week. Have we mentioned that today? You can go there anytime, or you can join us back here next week for another Midnight Menu Plus One.
Thanks again to our guests this evening, and see y'all next week. I'm Margot Moss.
And I'm Ray Canada. Good night.
You know Labor Day signals the unofficial end of summer, but not the end of your outdoor projects. Lowe's helps you do it right and helps you save with Labor Day deals throughout the store. Shop now and get 2 bags of Stay Green potty mix for $12. And keep your lawn looking neat and trim with a Craftsman 2-cycle 17-inch gas string trimmer, now $20 off at just $119. Whatever's still on your to-do list this Labor Day, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 8/28. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii, U.S. only.